Number 5, Ferrari 250 GTO. Number 3, 6, 7, 3 GT. There are 62 Ferrari 250 GTOs in existence, and then there is this one, chassis number 3673 GT, the only 250 GTO ever factory built in Series 2 specification from the ground up, not converted, not updated, built. One car, one configuration, never replicated. The 250 GTO ran a 3.0-liter V12, about 300 horsepower. In 1962, that was enough to dominate Le Mans, the Tour de France, and everything in between. Ferrari built it under the pretense of a GT car to qualify for FIA racing, but there was nothing grand touring about it. This was a race car wearing a loophole as a license plate. But here's where it gets interesting. Ferrari didn't sell the 250 GTO. They leased it to approved drivers only. Enzo Ferrari personally decided who was worthy. If he didn't like you, didn't matter how much money you had, you weren't getting one. That level of control meant every single chassis was tracked, documented, and preserved. 3673 GT last sold at auction for over $70 million. The buyer has never been publicly identified. 62 cars exist, but there is only one like this, and you will never see it. Number 4. Bugatti Type 41 Royale, chassis 41.150. This wasn't just a car, it was an insult to everything that came before it. Ettore Bugatti built the Type 41 Royale in 1927 for European royalty. 6 were made. 6. The engine alone, a 12.7-liter straight-8, was so massive it was later pulled from unsold Royales and dropped into French high-speed rail cars. The locomotive industry needed what Bugatti had already built for the road. Power output was approximately 300 horsepower, but that number means nothing when the car weighs over 3 tons and stretches nearly 21 feet bumper to bumper. This wasn't about speed, it was about dominance through sheer physical presence. Chassis 41.150, the Weinberger Cabriolet, is the only one of the 6 owned privately and displayed publicly on a semi-permanent basis. The other 5 live in controlled collections and private museums with almost zero public access. That's not even the craziest part. Ettore Bugatti originally wanted to sell the Royale to the King of Spain. The king refused. Bugatti was reportedly furious and refused to sell another Royale to any member of European royalty for years afterward. A car worth tens of millions, built for kings, rejected by one, and now locked behind glass where you can technically see it, if you know exactly where to go and exactly when. Most people never figure that out. Number 3. McLaren F1 LM chassis LM55 were built. One is different from all the others. The McLaren F1 LM was created in 1995 to celebrate the F1 GTR's outright victory at Le Mans. No windshield wipers, no radio, no carpet. Every gram of comfort stripped out and replaced with performance. The 6.1-liter BMW V12 was pushed to 680 horsepower, 80 more than the standard F1. The downforce package was so aggressive, it made the car nearly undrivable at low speeds. But chassis LM5 is the one that doesn't appear in the same conversation as the others. LM5 was the development mule, the car that absorbed every worst-case scenario during testing, every near failure, every system pushed past its limit before the other 4 were signed off for delivery. It carries scars the others don't. Here's where it gets worse. McLaren retained LM5 internally for years. Its ownership history is incomplete, deliberately. When it finally surfaced at a private sale, it went for a figure that wasn't publicly disclosed. The buyer hasn't displayed it, hasn't raced it, hasn't even photographed it publicly since acquisition. There are 5 McLaren F1 LMs. 4 of them have a history you can trace. One of them simply exists somewhere, in the hands of someone who has no interest in letting you know. Number 2, Porsche 917/30, chassis 001. This car didn't just win races, it ended a racing series. The Porsche 917/30 was built for the 1973 Can-Am season. The engine, a twin-turbocharged flat 12, produced over 1,100 horsepower in race trim. In qualifying configuration, some accounts place peak output at 1,580 horsepower in 1973 on tires that had no business handling that kind of power, on tracks with no meaningful barriers between the car and the crowd. Mark Donohue drove chassis 001 to the Can-Am Championship that year with a dominance that wasn't close. It wasn't a season. It was a demolition. Donohue won 6 of 8 races. The margin of victory was sometimes measured in full laps. What happened next shocked everyone. SCCA, the organizing body of Can-Am, didn't update the rules. They cancelled the series entirely. The 917/30 was so far beyond what anyone could compete with that the only solution was to stop the competition. A race car so fast it killed the race. Chassis 001, the original development car, is currently at the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart. You can see it, but standing in front of it, knowing what it did, knowing that it was so extreme that an entire racing series was dismantled because of it, that feeling is not something you find anywhere else. This car didn't just win, it rendered the concept of competition obsolete. Number 1. Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. Chassis SE00120 were built, but only one was never delivered. The Sesto Elemento, Italian for sixth element, carbon, was Lamborghini's statement to the entire automotive world in 2010. A 570 horsepower V10 in a car that weighed 999 kilograms. The carbon fiber wasn't applied to the body, it was the body. The chassis, the monocoque, the suspension components, carbon. The weight-to-power ratio placed it in the same conversation as Formula One machinery, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.5 seconds. A number that was borderline impossible for a road-legal car at the time, except it wasn't road-legal, not in most countries. And that was the conflict that defined the Sesto Elemento's entire existence. Lamborghini built it for track use only. Every unit was delivered to a customer with a specific track-only agreement. You could own it, but you couldn't drive it to the grocery store. You couldn't register it. You couldn't even bring it to certain countries without a special import process. 19 were delivered. Chassis SE001, the original pre-production prototype, was never sold. It was used for crash testing, regulatory submission, and press documentation. After its role was complete, it was retained by Lamborghini and placed in a state of semi-permanent storage, not formally part of the public museum rotation. It has been photographed fewer than a dozen times. Its current condition isn't confirmed publicly. 20 Sesto Elementos exist in the world. Most owners keep them garaged, covered, and undriven for months at a time. They're too valuable and too fragile to use casually. The one that started it all isn't even on public display. You will never see this car. It doesn't want to be seen. Every car on this list was built at the edge of what was possible, or just past it. They weren't created to be looked at, they were created to be impossible, to define a moment in automotive history so precisely that nothing before or after could replicate it. That's what makes them dangerous, not the horsepower, not the price, the fact that they existed at all, and that the world could only handle one. Some things are rare because they were made that way. Others are rare because the world couldn't survive more than one. These were both.